Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star. I would like to welcome our special guest, Milan Somberg. Dr. Milan Somberg, welcome to the show. Okay, he will appear shortly, I'm pretty sure. In the meantime, let me start with the major news. Is today was hello, Milan. Welcome to the show again.
Oh, yeah. Good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. It's a CPI number was today released. It was 0.3, same as last month or so. So there are no big changes here. So we don't expect any decision soon on interest rates. Some people believe that there will be no changes this year altogether. Some people believe that there will be probably some easing, maybe in September, maybe in December, maybe both. So we'll see. In the meantime, market is moving as usually on Wednesday it does, decisively up, and Nvidia is toying with its resistance at 950. It's presently 945 or so, and I think it will definitely break to 950, maybe even later today, and if not tomorrow or Friday. And then at 974, there will be a clear buy point because all resistance will be gone by that time. So some people may venture earlier than that. Typically, well, I have a fairly large position anyway, and I think I will add up, which I did last actually 3 days in a row. I was buying when during the day market, or Nvidia shares rather, they were going slightly lower, and at that point I would buy 100 or maybe 200 shares with covered call attached, and this covered call would be December 960. This is my figure. I've done by now, it's already 4 all profitable transactions. As a result of this transaction, my price decreased to only 920 dollars per share. So I'm already in a plus on shares, and I have very, very juicy position on options that I sold both calls and puts. So this once that all will be done, I think I'm looking at very sizable profit on all that. So also I'm adding some other positions, also all covered calls, including I'm talking about JP Morgan, I'm talking about Amazon, I'm talking about TNA, which is a bet on small cap stocks. Although I cashed this position out just recently, waiting for maybe market will go down, maybe tomorrow or after or day after. So maybe I will add again this position, but we'll see. I'm not sure. This is all sideshow to me because Nvidia covers all of it. So the size of my position in Nvidia makes all the JP Morgan and Amazon bets quite insignificant. Just doing that for entertainment purposes only. Although I'm winning the trades, but there's nothing to write home about. Milan, how you are faring in this market? What's interesting?
Well, that the first weekend of May every year, Berkshire Hathaway has its annual meeting.
Yes.
And its recent annual meeting, Warren Buffett claimed that he has nearly $1 trillion of cash reserve. Much of it which is making 5% guaranteed return. But he said that even if it were only making 1% guaranteed return, he would not look elsewhere because he thinks that the market is hugely overvalued. And so, the Buffett index is measures the entire U.S. economy against the entire U.S. market, and it claims to be hugely overvalued at this time. It has nowhere to go. A trend is more likely to continue than it is to reverse itself, but sooner or later it will reverse itself, guaranteed. Now, in 1929, Irving Fisher was a famous, renowned, well-respected economist at the beginning of the 20th century. And today he's primarily remembered for saying that the market has reached a permanently high plateau just a few days before the market collapsed in 1929. That is what Irving Fisher is remembered for, not for the many respected papers that he has published. So he might be happy about where we are today, and he might think that we have reached a permanently high plateau. But, the few things that are guaranteed in the market, one is that they will fluctuate. And so, yes, a trend will continue for before it reverses itself, but sooner or later it will reverse itself. And that's what we're looking at here, Sasha. What you're doing with NVIDIA is a dangerous thing for most of us. Most people aren't Sasha stars. And so you're doing a dangerous thing. For example, if what you're doing now is measured against the market as a whole, as represented by SPY over the next decade or so, almost sure to be a losing proposition, almost for sure. Maybe not. And yes, there are outliers out there, and you might well be one of them, but most of us aren't. And so what you're doing with NVIDIA is not something that we would recommend to people. Now, if the market is overvalued, as it most certainly is, and Buffett claims that, and he is one of the most renowned investors of all time, and he's not in the market because there are no bargains there today, that, does not affect people who invest the way that we do at Monday Morning Millionaire. We have about 300 members, and what we do is we have an allocation of roughly 50-50. Cash and cash equivalents, cash equivalents and the market itself, roughly 50-50, 45-55, 60-40, 40-60, doesn't much matter. So long as you have an asset allocation situation where you have a great deal of cash. Because we know that unless we are cherry picking, the market has been the best place to invest. No, the US market has been the best place to invest for over 100 years. Yes, there are examples where other investments have done better, but I'm talking about generally speaking. Yes, there have been stamps which have outperformed the market, and there have been violins which have outperformed the market, and there have been real estate locations that have outperformed the market. Unbelievably, also violin bows have actually outperformed the violins. But now you're talking about cherry picking here, and people can do very well without ever going into the market. But all things considered, and the U.S. stock market has then done better than any other investment without cherry picking. So that's what we recommend our members do, is buy the U.S. market with about a half of the money they invest, and the other should be in cash or cash equivalents. And so when the market rises to unreasonable levels where it is at now, our members have been taking profits. As the market goes up, to maintain that 50-50 asset allocation, 60-40, whatever it is not as important as having one, and having one with lots of cash. To maintain that, as the market rises, we take profits. And as the market collapses, which sooner or later it will, we buy bargains. And you're always ahead, always buying bargains, always taking profits. Interestingly, as the market goes up and becomes increasingly more expensive, people are jumping on board. The average investor is jumping on board as the market is becoming more expensive. Conversely, and I've said this before, as the market tanks and bargains abound, the average investor is running for the doors, running for the doors. This is the same person who would drive across town to save a few bucks on a loaf of bread and some groceries, running for the doors when the market is a bargain, looking for bargains and everything else that he buys. So our position is maintain cash, an asset allocation of roughly 50-50 and maintain that. And when that allocation is thrown off by market movement, as happens frequently, adjust to bring it back to what it was. Also, we have to be aware of the fact that market that sometimes drops over 20% in a year. That will certainly happen again. So therefore, the money that we are going to need in the near future does not belong in the market. So now, the best place to invest is the U.S. market. It does fluctuate enormously. Therefore, the money we'll need next week for groceries and if we want to take a holiday or anything else, that does not belong in the market. Given that type of behavior, we will do very well indeed. And so our investors will, in retirement, be able to continue their lifestyle without working, but living off the investments in a way that I described.
Mm-hmm. Basically, the stocks that I mentioned, NVIDIA, JP Morgan, Amazon, they are all leaders in their industry. Obviously, they are part of American market.
Yeah.
The economy is doing very well, regardless what people are commenting, and they're trying to say that market is weak, economy is weak, and that Biden is doomed for the election because of that. In my opinion, it's a perception rather than any scientific
Well, Sasha, perceptions matter. Surveys show, and the Wall Street Journal, as recently as today, published some surveys that were conducted. If an election were held in the United States today, Biden would lose.
Yeah, agree with that. Yes, I agree with that.
The astounding thing to me is that Trump has offended all the women out there. He has offended all the people in the military. He has offended a large number of many people, yet he has such a large following. Who is following him and why? He has a huge following. He would win if the election were held today. He might also go to jail for his behavior. So it's possible that the next American president will be Trump running the country from jail. They're very unlikely, but possible. Now, why does he have such a large following when he has offended so many people?
I think that, look, Trump, with all his legal troubles, because he is not in power, so he cannot be criticized either for economy or from foreign policy or for anything, because it's Biden who is in power. And so for anything, whatever there is possible, criticized will be only Biden, not Trump. So with also, it's again, when you're talking about perceptions, the economy is doing well, the stock market is booming, but who cares? Biden, he didn't say that right, and he didn't do that right, and so on. And I think that Republican media is very skillfully arrange these messages, and so people becoming worried about what's up here or there, and.
Why isn't Biden getting credit for the fact that the market is doing so well and that the employment is high?
Only about economy, it's only one reason, because inflation hasn't been gone. The high prices, either it's in gas stations or supermarkets, they're not really that high in my opinion, but people want them to be lower anyway. Yeah. And because it seems to me that this is the goal of the Federal Reserve to get inflation down to 2%, it might not even happen in the next 15, 20 years. Because it's 2%, in my opinion, especially if they keep interest rates high. If they would lower interest rates, that would help probably to get down to 2%. Not sure that
when did we have 2% inflation rate?
I don't recall that. Maybe before the COVID, but I'm not even sure about it. I think 2% is historical low. Maybe there was 2% some time ago, but again, it's not engraved in stone. And what's happened if inflation is 2.5%? Then
Yeah,
what we're
well,
doing?
we have to look at what people do rather than what they say.
Yeah,
And I've mentioned this before, but who benefits from inflation? The people who benefit from inflation are borrowers. They borrow $1,000, and then when they return the same $1,000, it buys less. They've come ahead. And so, who is the biggest borrower on the planet would be governments of all sorts, the American government leading. So, with the huge debt load that the American government has and the borrowing position in which it is in, it benefits from inflation. Yet they keep talking about wanting to control inflation. Doesn't make sense at all.
you know what may happen is that, especially with the last few days, astronomical gains in meme stocks like GameStop and AMC and a few others, it leads me to believe that probably people will start because they're scared, obviously, to buy stocks like Nvidia or JP Morgan. And also, I don't believe that average investor is buying these stocks. They are quite expensive, especially if you're talking about Nvidia, it's almost 950 a share. So let's see, to buy 100 shares, you need $95,000. No, sorry. No. It's $950,000 for 100 shares. Why I'm talking about 100 shares because that's an amount is required to sell it one covered call, and I wouldn't recommend to buy Nvidia without covered deep in the money covered call.
Sasha,
Hopefully protect.
equaling the U.S. market is very simple. We can teach a high school student, a public school student, elementary school student to do so in a matter of minutes to equal the U.S. market, which has been the best place to invest for a very long time. And now, uh, why are people trying to do better than that? Very few people do that. The average investor trails the market. Equaling the market is easy. Beating the market is next to impossible, with the exception of a few market wizards, and you might well be one of them. Almost nobody, almost nobody can. Investors on average don't equal the market. The average investor trails the market. Equaling the market is a piece of cake.
Emil, I'm more and more aware of what I'm doing is quite unique, and I gave up on the idea to teach anybody to do that. It's impossible. Even I talked in the last couple of days to my very good friends that I know them for a number of dozens of years, and some of them quit after a minute and a half. They just say it's too complicated, we cannot do it. Some others are going on for 10 minutes. And then at the end of 10 minutes, they're saying, no, overly, it's too complicated, we cannot do that. One person actually agrees that there are a lot of merits and he's fascinated with what I'm doing. But he says, look, it works for you. I'm not sure that it will work for me. And I'm scared. And I tell him, you're right. It will be for you only when you will comprehend what is it, and when you will have desire to try to do it. If you don't have either of this, don't even think about it.
Well, the downsides of what you're doing, Sasha, it takes exceptional talent. You need to be a Mozart of investing, and I believe you are one of those. And the other thing is that it takes a lot of time. Now, if you enjoy doing that, and many people do, spending a lot of time at it is the right thing to do. You enjoy what you're doing. If you can enjoy what you're doing and break even, don't ask for more. But you're doing even better than that. So enjoy what you're doing. It does take a lot of time. And so most of our members derive most of their income from their work. We have about 300 members in Monday Morning Millionaires. Most of them are still actively working. There are four areas of economics that we need to pay attention to. One is active income. 2 is security, which would be insurance of various sorts. 3 is passive income, which is what we're talking about here. And 4 is the orderly settlement of our estate. Those are the 4 economic issues that we need to concern ourselves with throughout our lives. So now here in modern investing, we're talking about the third one. We're talking about passive income. And so since most of our members still earn most of their money from what they're doing, they don't have a lot of time for investing. So equaling the market, American market, produces a lot.
Hey, Sasha and Milan, just really quickly, I'm over waiting for a meeting. How's it going? I just had a quick question. I'm actually waiting for a meeting, getting ready to do a walking tour, but I'm actually looking outside of a boutique hotel because this is in downtown Durham, and a working space, a co-working space. So as y'all are in the investment space and everything, if you were in a downtown area, would you consider investing in any of these type of businesses? Because I'm looking at, there's also a health restaurant called Juice Keys. I think it's a chain, and Neo Monde as well. And I'm seeing a couple of other businesses that are in the downtown area. But I do know that there are people that are interested in boutique hotels, because 21C is a boutique hotel. And of course, I'm staring at WeWorks, and WeWork actually had some trouble at one point or another and everything, but there is a WeWorks here. So, and there are a number of other co-working spaces. So is this the type of investment that if you were in business investment and construction business, you would think about investing in?
We would not think about investing in individual stocks of any sort. We believe the best results historically have been investing in the U.S. market, and study the past if you would define the future, said Confucius. So that's probably correct. So what's happened in the recent past, over 100 years, the American market has been the best place to invest. Many have done better than that by picking individual stocks like you're suggesting, but most haven't. And so my answer to your question is we recommend against investing in individual stocks, unless you do so in a fund portfolio, which we call a fund portfolio. There are 3 things about a fund portfolio, which I keep saying all the time. 1 is nobody needs one. 2 is make sure that it's small enough that if you lose everything in it, it doesn't change your lifestyle. And 3 is don't keep records, because you will be disappointed.
Are there any exceptions to what you just said to me?
There are. The exceptions are outliers, and they are the market wizards. They're the Sasha Stars of the world. They're the Mozarts of the investing world. So yes, there are exceptions. Most of us are not exceptions.
I'd like to enlighten you about these rules, especially about watching the record. I want to tell you something about my fund portfolio. That will be quite interesting. It's in a way unique, but because I'm watching it, it's my pleasure to share it with you. And what I'm about to share with you, some numbers. About a year and a half, slightly more, maybe a year and 7 months ago, to be exact, soon to be 7 months ago. What I did, I wanted to create indeed fund portfolio and have it completely separate from everything else
Right.
what I'm doing, right? I did open a specialized margin account, of course, and, with all rights to do options of all kinds and so on. And what I did, I deposited on that account $40,000 Canadian, $40,000 Canadian. Now, I haven't got even a penny out of this account for all that time. However, the value of the account today, as we speak, $265,242.
Astounding. In 1 year and 7 months.
Yes, 1 year and 7 months.
Astounding.
Hey, Sasha, speaking of exceptions, what do y'all think of, because I'm actually staring across the street from one of grocery stores. We all have to eat, and a lot of times people will set up this is an urban market, but it's set up just like a grocery store. It's probably set up like a smaller version of say a Whole Foods or something like that. But what about investing in something that we all need, which of course is food and everything? So would a grocery store be a good investment?
Good investment. It all depends what you compare. You have to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Now, I don't believe that if I would invest 40,000 Canadian in a grocery store or gas station or boutique hotel, I would have in a year and 7 months 265,000 return. I just don't believe that there is no such thing. So, in my opinion,
You've been using derivatives.
yes, of course. Yeah.
Your investment. Suppose you used derivatives with grocery stores.
How you do it?
Yeah, how would you do then? If you buy sell covered calls, never buy, only sell derivatives. Sell covered calls, sell cash secured puts.
But how can you do it on grocery store?
I don't know if it's possible.
I don't think it's possible. But you see, in my opinion, the businesses, Marco, what you're describing, whether it's a grocery store or a boutique hotel, it's good for a person who will be actually not just own this, but work there as a CEO or in some kind of managerial capacity. So he will get some immediate fruits of his labor, at least.
Yeah.
So if it will prosper and so on, he'll do very well. And maybe in 2-3 years, he will sell it for much more money than he paid for it. Plus, you had salary all this time or so, and it makes a lot of sense.
Let me add something to what you're saying here, Sasha. Both in Canada and the United States, there is a number of tax advantage investment possibilities. Those have to be fully invested before we start doing what we're talking about here. This $40,000 that you've opened up in an account 1 year and 7 months ago has to be after all your tax advantaged portfolios are fully invested.
No. This was not tax advantages account.
Of course. But the tax advantage ones have to be fully invested before you start going outside them. For most
look, what I'm doing is the last thing. What I need is some kind of regulations and some kind of rules and so on. I don't need any of those. I'd rather pay taxes, but I would do my own things the way I understand, the way I feel, rather than follow some rules, whatever they might be. So in this case, look, I'm just actually at the beginning of going there. See, what I want is that I want this account to exceed my core portfolio. So this would motivate me actually to collapse my core portfolio and put everything into a fund account. Right now, I'm not doing that, although I'm doing so much better, as you can imagine, in this than my core portfolio. It's obvious.
Suppose that you had nothing but your core portfolio.
Yeah.
You would continue living the way you live now in retirement, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So really, you don't need more. You're looking for more because it's a way of record keeping. It's keeping records to see if you're doing better. That's what it is, really, isn't it? I want to do better just because I did this much this year. I want to do this much next year.
I'll tell you what's the purpose of fund portfolio, for me at least. It's a possibility to not watch my checkbook before any expenditure, whether it's a trip around the world or maybe some other expenditures, what I'd like to do. First of all, I want to fly, and I do fly always in business class. I always staying in 5, maybe 6 stars hotel if they're available, all inclusive if it's available, so on. So I don't watch my expenses. This is a single purpose of my fund portfolio, and I want to continue, because if I would have to get money out of my core portfolio to pay for a business trip, then I started to think, do I really need this business class? Oh, well, if I will fly economy, I will arrive at the same time as people in business class. Okay, so my food is not as spectacular as in business class, but it doesn't matter. When I will arrive to a destination, I will go to a good restaurant and so on. Well, I don't want to do that.
Business class gets there a little sooner than the back of the plane, but not much sooner.
And no, there are a lot of privileges in business class.
Well, there are, but and I only travel business class also, and have done
Yeah.
all my life.
So
But
you know what I'm
you know,
talking.
John Templeton, famous investor Templeton, a very religious guy. He was a very religious guy, and he always used to fly in the back of the plane and take the difference between business class and the back of the plane where he was flying and donate it to a church.
Well, he's a religious man. It's his right, absolutely. But you know what I wanted to say is that, in my opinion, if you're saying that market is overvalued, maybe you're right.
I'm just quoting Buffett, who is one of the most respected, most successful investors in history. Maybe I am right. I'm just quoting Buffett. I can't do better than that.
I have a privilege of not listening to Buffett. I deserve that, and this is my role. Actually, I don't listen to anybody. I'm watching the tape. I'm watching the prices of stocks. I'm watching the volume.
Question for you, Sasha.
Yes.
You recommend your approach to investing to the rest of the world, to other investors. Can you recommend what you are doing to others? The answer is no, but carry on. Let me hear.
Well, I wanted to say that maybe even a few months ago, I would say, yes, I recommend it, and I will help you how to do it properly. Not really. No. Today, I'm saying, no, I'm not going to recommend it. And what I can see people will start doing, we'll talk about next week more about it. People will start going very soon into penny stocks. There are a lot of undervalued little companies, small companies trading for pennies a share. And that's where even stock is trading, say, a half cent. Just for it to move to 1 cent a share, it's already 100% move. You see, but we'll talk about this next week. In the meantime, thank you very much for today's show. All the best to you, and I see you next week, same place, same time.
Delighted. Thank you.